Dragon Ball FighterZ is my favorite fighting game that I hate playing. I have 730 hours in this piece of shit fighting game, and every time it makes me angry or a new fighting game comes out that is theoretically or even literally better than it, I spend my $60, play it for 2 minutes, and go back to this terrible game that I don't know why I like. I have no idea why I'm like this. I've kind of accepted it by now, but by God, that is not going to stop me from ranting about how terrible the dbfz online is. The game itself has some problems too, but I don't want to get too deep into that today. Right now, I want to talk about its online and how catastrophically it fails at delivering a competitive online experience. Something I would certainly expect from Dragon Ball and something that I would expect from most anime fighters. This review sort of thing is going to get a little harsh when you're watching it, so I want you to keep in mind that despite everything I'm about to say, Dragon Ball is still one of the best fighting games ever made, and it holds a very special place in my heart. And really, that just speaks to how well it was made, absent any of the online problems I'm going to talk about right now. Now, for anyone who doesn't know, there are two main types of netcode you'll see in fighting games. You have delay-based netcode, and you have rollback. And I'm not interested in explaining how these work. I'll link a video below if you are, but the short of it is that Dragon Ball has delay-based netcode. That means that when you input something, there will be a certain amount of time before that input shows up on screen. And on top of that, the amount of time that it takes for that input to show up on screen will fluctuate in between matches. At best, when you match into somebody, you will be experiencing 1 frame of consistent input delay, but this never happens. If you set your match preference to the highest quality of connection, you're going to be receiving around 2 to 4 frames of input delay, in my experience. Now, a more casual player or somebody who doesn't even really play the game might look at that and think to themselves, what's the big difference? It's a couple fractions of a second. It can't be that big a deal. However, speeding the game up by just that much actually does make a big deal, and I've identified 3 aspects in which I think it majorly affects the game: pressure, neutral, and team composition. And I'm going to be explaining each of them in the video after this. I don't want to get too deep into this because there's already a pretty good video by esteemed YouTuber and competitive dbfz player Lord Knight, but the Dragon Ball devs don't want offense to be too strong, and one of the ways that they nerf offense is by making mix-up options slow, normally around 24 frames. So in an offline environment, people are able to react to things like Dragon Rush, 6M, and other character-specific moves designed to be slow with relative consistency, whereas in an offline environment, this is much harder to do. This is because the window for something being reactable is very, very tight. Just a few frames can make all the difference. For example, this is me trying to attack Dragon Mash in training mode. This one is with 0 frames of delay, and this one is with 2 frames of delay. You can tell there is a world of difference. So when you unintentionally speed offense up, you end up with a lot of people who don't really bother learning actual mix-ups because the system mechanics can get them much further for much less effort. And on top of that, because of how reflecting things that don't necessarily gel into Vanish is harder to do online, people's turns become even longer still. But this is all a molehill compared to the other problem that sped up offense creates, which is people who refuse to block. Refusing to block is really common among online ranked players, and while people make fun of them for it, you need to remember that not blocking actually makes sense when everything is 2 to 3 frames faster. Why would you just sit there and let yourself get opened up when you could take the risk of mashing or reflecting and get a potentially huge reward? Dumbing down offense and defense into rock, paper, scissors, where the defender is constantly mashing something and the attacker has to guess what, is worse than just sitting there and only taking risks in scary situations, but you have to remember that online, every situation is a scary situation due to the frame delay. There's one thing I neglected to mention in my previous section, and that's delay variance. And that's well because I think that variance can be irritating as it pertains to pressure. I think that the main problem with pressure in relation to the Dragon Ball Online is the actual delay, everything being sped up 2 to 3 frames, as opposed to a neutral where everything is slower, so the 2 to 3 frames don't matter as much. But there's much more to have to look out for, so being able to react to something at the last second is really important, and something that the constantly fluctuating frame delay really messes with. I think that the main way that delay variance messes with neutral has to do with super dash. Now, super dash is irritating to deal with in the first place because the game basically only gives you one option to fight it, and that's down heavy. But you're going to be spending most of your neutral in the air where there is no down heavy, at least not for most characters. And so therefore you have to try and hit super dash out of the air with a jab. And now this is already pretty hard to do. It's kind of inconsistent and it really depends based on your character's jab, but it becomes even harder, almost impossible, when you introduce delay variance. This makes the window for a correct jab timing, which is already tight, much, much tighter. This turns Super Dash into a very spammable, a very low commit, and very potentially high reward option that you can just whip out in neutral whenever you don't really know what to do or whenever you're in trouble. It also slows neutral down to a screeching halt where both people are just kind of waiting around, waiting for one of them to fuck up. It's really irritating, and I hate it. But this is nothing compared to Super Dash's malformed cousin, the Vanish. And I already have problems with vanishing as it is, that being that it's a brain dead get out of jail free option for scramble situations, and that carries into online too. But normally you'd be able to reflect or even 2H it. Of course, online, even just reflecting is a challenge, let alone anti-airing it. And the closest thing you'll get to a botched vanish attempt is if it whiffs or if it hits too high, and in which both cases the opponent will be at a disadvantage. However, that's better than the alternative, which could have just been a punish or a really deadly mix-up. And even then, if the opponent is at disadvantage, all it is just your turn, and they can still use reversal options. Overall, Vanish just makes neutral safer. It lets you get away with a lot more things, and it's dumb. Although Dragon Ball combos aren't that hard, there is a lot of sauce out there, and it's a shame to see that the inconsistent connection discourages people from trying those combos out. It also leads to people panicking when they get a hit and just going off of muscle memory, and that can lead to a lot of combos that look like this. The last main thing that I think is heavily impacted by the netcode is team composition. There's a reason that most online teams look the way they do, and I've identified a few characteristics that I think make the characters in them popular. The first is a big normal, auto combo that's easy to convert, some way to beat up tech, easy mix-up, reversal, big damage, a tracking assist, normally a C assist, a lariat, and a 5L that can take its turn after blocking a super dash. So all these attributes have something in common, and that's that they let you keep your turn for as long as possible in as many situations as possible. Remember, offense is really good online, and so conversely, defense is really bad, and a team that lets you keep your offense in as many situations for as long as possible is really desirable. A good examples of attributes that complement this I mentioned are ways to be up tech, easy mix-up, reversal, big damage, things like that. Other attributes like auto combos being easier to convert just let you match more. It's obvious why that's appealing. And lariats let you take your turn from far away, as well as letting you capitalize on your opponent landing, something that you really need to do considering how rare it is. Also, lariats are relatively safe from vanish. As for why tracking C assists are so popular, I actually think there's a pretty interesting theory for why this is the case. The first is that they're easy to use, obviously, but I think that there's actually a second reason that people don't know of as much, which is that they're pretty good at fighting against super dash. You see, a common way of avoiding assists online is by jumping up and then super dashing over the assist. And still avoid the assist, and it's generally pretty tough to punish online unless you're outright baiting it. However, with the C assist, you can normally block the super dash, and the assist timing will work out so that the assist gets spawned, teleports, and then hits your opponent. And it'll either punish the super dash or you're going to be able to take your turn after the super dash. Something else that goes with this is the 5L that's able to take its turn after a blocked super dash. If you can't outright punish the super dash, the next best thing is to be able to take your turn after it. And characters with 5Ls that let you do that are obviously very popular online. The actual rank system has some problems too. Not being able to see people's battle cards when you first match into them is really irritating. And there's the fact that it's only ever a first to two, something that nobody asked for. All it does is make it so that you have less time to adapt in an already stressful environment. Square colors don't really reflect your skill level at all. They only serve as a disincentive to rematch people who are better than you in casual. Maybe this is a hot take, but I don't think that you should be able to one and done people. I think that you should just have a concession option at any point in the match where you can relinquish your BP and the match just ends. And then other than that, we can have ranked matches just play back to back. You can keep the casual system as it is. I think that it's fine, and that's kind of all I have to say about the actual system. A great man once said, I play dbfz in spite of its ranked, and I feel the exact same way. All the problems I mentioned in this video are possible to play around, and they just make the game dumber and stupider than I really think it needs to be. The upshot of all of this is that they just added rollback to BlazBlue, and they said they're going to go through all their old games and add rollback to them, so we might see rollback in Dragon Ball. And if we don't, then we might see Dragon Ball 2. And if neither of those things happen, then I won't be surprised. Either way, I'm optimistic about the future of Dragon Ball. Also, I'm probably going to make another video like this again. It was really fun to do.